So my name's Shannon Johnson, I'm GEM Engagement Manager, and we've been hosting this theatre all afternoon, which has been an absolute pleasure. So I'd like to introduce our final speaker of the day. So this is Jonathan Monroe, who is the Digital Learning Officer at Leeds Museums and Galleries, and he's going to be talking about AI and school visits. So over to you, Jonathan.
Thank you. Hi everyone, thank you for having me. So yes, I'm Jonathan, and I work for Leeds Museums and Galleries, and we have 8 sites. And one of the projects we work on is My Learning. So we have a stand over there on D8, and there is about 45 minutes left to go have a quick look over there and chat to us. But I'm here now, so there's someone else will talk to you. So we work with lots of resources from other institutions and heritage sites. So I will just give it a brief introduction to what My Learning actually is and why we've come to the conclusion that maybe using something like language tools, smart language tools, might be the best way for us to get more use out of what we're doing for teachers. So this is My Learning. It's a website, and it's about 16 years old, and all the material on there is supplied from other institutions. We do have some of the resources from our own Leeds curators and staff, but predominantly most of the things on there are supplied by lots of other places, so it's definitely a wide-reaching tool. And we promote this to teachers. Anyone can use it, but teachers will get the most out of it because it links to the national curriculum. It has cross-curricular links in there, and it allows heritage to get into schools the fastest and easiest way. We have people use this and then come and see us and look for the items that are in there as well. So it's a great way of getting children and visits into venues as well. So we have on there at the moment currently 310 learning stories. We do take stories off when they've been on there too long, or we update them, and then we're adding new ones. So the reason why we come here and have a stand, as well as to communicate with other heritage organisations to come and get in touch with us and share more resources with us. And what a learning story often is, will be a collection of chapters. So you'll be telling your story about your item, whatever you'll want to talk about, your object or photograph. And then in there you'll also have images, film, 3D files, sound maps, anything embeddable in a website can be added to that as well. So it's just standard web tools, and then a teacher can go in there, pick and choose, and download the items that they need. And we've always said we don't supply lesson plans, and that was a big thing we talked about. So I will just move that along. So unique features. Content is from arts and cultural organisations. We are a hub predominantly for teachers. We get more like 1.5 million hits a year, so we're quite well used, we're quite well established. We don't have anything like marketing on there. It's free to use, which is there. And we also are working harder at creating place-based curriculums, which the idea behind that is at Leeds, we have every student in Leeds will be able to find something about their own locality in what we do. And we're trying to roll this out to more museums across the country, and we would love to have lots more place-based curriculums, so that allows us to share those locally. Okay, so it's all about real people, real objects, and real stories, which is interesting when you're thinking about AI, because often it's very hard to understand what AI is, the capabilities of that, and when it's not necessarily all those things, is it? So our mission is to get fabulous objects and stories from the museum stores, archives, and into classrooms. So it's a very simple mission, it's not complex at all. My colleague, who I'll just mention, Izzy, who started the role before me, she has done lots of work making sure that every child sees themselves reflected in the content. So we've done, hopefully, lots of work. We need to do more, but to make sure that reflection is there for at whatever point a child is at. Okay, but there's always a but, isn't there? At My Learning, we've noticed that teachers are still not using it enough. They may use it for one resource a year and go back to it the next year and use it again. So at least they're coming back, but they're not realizing that there's actually loads more on there that they could be using. And they don't have time. And that's the big one, isn't it? And everyone hears this all the time. Teachers just do not have time. In each lesson there's cross-curricular links, but I've been told just yesterday, a young gentleman came and told me that a maths specialist, we don't acknowledge the maths elements of the stories that we already have. So a very specific example there. And there's loads of things on there that even I don't know about, and even though I work on it, because I don't go through the site all the time and find everything. I often go to the same stories when I want to present to someone and show them what we do. So what can we do to try and help the situation? Now, we had these problems before. This wasn't, we didn't just invent this afterwards. And we were trying to think, okay, we don't make lesson plans, and teachers, we want them to use the site more. So what can we do? The search tool could be a bit better. Maybe we could rearrange the site. We could maybe try and get more funding and rebuild the site again if we have to, but we didn't think that was the problem. So we started to explore this idea of, when we've been going to conferences as well and hearing the potentials of what AI can do, is could we connect the dots a little bit here and use what we've got with that? And I've got an arts background, but also a digital background as well, so a bit of a tech head, but not really. So I'm kind of in the middle of that, so I've got to learn what AI actually is and all the tools. So that's what this project has been about, is me experimenting, trying things out for myself, for no one else. We've rolled it out to the team and we've chatted and we've had those conversations and we've introduced it to a few teachers, but we're at a point now where we think this is something, and we'd like to have those conversations a bit more about what it could actually be. Okay, so why? Why would we use a large language model? So obviously, I'm pretty sure that everyone in this room has potentially either heard of it, what an LLM is, or they've used one. ChatGPT being a very good example. So it understands, when I'm saying planning language there, we're referring to things like lesson planning specific. So it can understand the nuances of what a teacher might be looking for. So could we design a tool focused on teachers so they can find anything on our site specific to their classroom environment, which could be a whole range of different types of environments and students. Could we have better connecting between our themes and resources? Could we unearth stories and connections that we didn't know were there before? The site isn't necessarily designed that way. It's more designed for tagging one specific thing, and if we don't tag it, it doesn't make the link. So it's relying on a lot of background work and going back in and redoing that. And also, could it actually help us draft, maybe not a lesson plan, but a scheme of work? So we thought, instead of asking it to do too much, why don't we just ask it to do a real simple overview? A teacher would be able to look at it and then build from there and find the resources and be able to make those connections a lot quicker. So it's to speed up that process for teachers. Okay, so there's the obligatory connection picture. So we have, maybe not as many resources as that, but we have lots of different types of files, and it's very good. I'll introduce that we're using ChatGPT at this point, understanding all those different elements and bringing them all together, and understanding that we're trying to actually create a scheme of work out of this. So what do we do? So we trained our model. So this model, trains it. It predicts and generates human-like text, which I think most of us already know that. It responds to questions and structured ideas and connects topics. So it's perfect for what we're aiming to do. It doesn't know, it just does a very good, tries very hard to show that it sounds like it does, which I think is really important to keep remembering that as we use these tools. And it needs human judgment. At the beginning, the middle, and the end. I'd say I think it's not at that point now where you can just leave it to do whatever it wants. And I have got my own examples to show that as well. So what we did to guide it. So through experimentation, so we used a custom ChatGPT so we could design it ourselves and go back to it repeatedly. We weren't just using the empty box. And we had to realize, how do you collaborate with it? How do you communicate with it? And how do you get out of it what we actually want? So we set up a set of kind of core areas that we thought it was important. So we thought, maybe, what if it could only use my learning resources? What if everything on my learning was written by humans, no one loses a job, it doesn't try to write anything, and it doesn't try to make up information. If the information is wrong, it's wrong because a human put it in wrong, or we didn't edit it correctly. when we did that phase. So we thought, let's use My Learning, let's use all of that on the site. It can browse the internet because we want people to be able to connect back to the story so they can find it themselves. So they need the web link, they need to be able to search as well. If it doesn't have the story it wants, it just tells them we don't have that at this moment. We will do our best. Maybe it can catalog that for us and we can see what people are actually asking it. And we can look to get an institution to write a story about that rather than trying to get our smart system to try and look on the internet and we don't know what it's going to spit out at the end. If it can't do a full scheme of work, for example, like a 6-week scheme of work, it will offer something a lot shorter. So maybe there's one story that's perfect for this, but it only covers a small select area. It will just do 1 hour. And it tells you what it's doing. It has clear messages when it's browsing. If it's trying to search on the internet, it tells you it's going to do that, and then there'll be an option to stop that. So it's very much a closed system. ChatGPT doesn't really work that way. So we'll go into that later. So it will, at the beginning, it asks the core things of what we're trying to do on My Learning is, what is it that you're looking for? What's your topic? What age are your students? The more information you offer, how long do you want your scheme of work to be? Initially, I imagine people would type a longer answer, and it actually turns out it's very simple, isn't it? Lesson plan, Romans, Key Stage 3, 6 weeks. That's it. That's all you need to offer. And then it can, once it's created it, it can suggest deeper prompts. So would you like to focus on a specific area or use what's already in there for that? It can offer the links, so you've not only got the lesson plan, but you can always go back and reread the thing for yourself. And then it can also make those connections between all the different stories and all the different ideas that's in them as well, which I think is probably one of the more longer term interesting parts of it. Okay, so when we tested it with teachers, some of the things they asked was the most simple things that they need as quick as possible. It's literally that simple. Key Stage 2, Year 9 or history, or can you create something about Windrush, or can you create something about a specific thing that they're talking about in their classrooms, and they just want really quick, what could I do? Would this be something that I want to use? Could I use it? It's a very small example because we haven't rolled it out and we've not spoken to lots of teachers. I'd be really curious to do workshops with teachers and see if maybe we can get a better idea of what people are actually looking to ask it, so then we can train it better. Okay, so this is an example of a very simple scheme of work created for ancient Egypt, which is something all students will go at primary school. It's a very common thing. It's our highest looked at resource and downloaded materials. It will give you topic focus, curriculum links, duration, and then it will just break it down. And they can be at different sizes. You could say, can you give me a more bite-sized version of this? Or you could say, can you go in depth and really offer me more information that I can go with to build this? So the idea is, if we do it as a scheme of work, then the teacher then gets to pick and choose more, and they get to tailor it better and edit it. And also it's faster, so it only needs to generate a small amount of information, but it gives you the overview of the thing that you're looking at. It connects to those lesson ideas and those things. It doesn't always do a perfect job. Sometimes it focuses too much on one area and not another. So I think one area that we could work is to feed it more information about what the curriculum is. At this point, I've noticed that it seems to have a very good handle on what the UK curriculum is. It must be pulling that from the internet already. But I think from the first examples of looking at it, it seemed quite powerful for that thing of what teachers are struggling with. And the thing that we don't have the capacity to do is offer lesson plans. And I think it was a lot better than I expected, that's for sure, at fulfilling that role. Okay. So we've kind of gone through all of this, and just to reiterate that as a draft process for tweaking. So what worked? The teachers liked the speed and structure, so it allowed them to create something quickly and find the information that they were looking for. And it wasn't just pulled off the internet. I think that's a really important point to keep mentioning, because you can't, there's a lot of ways it can go wrong there. Locating stories locally, so people can put in where they are specifically, and it can pull those stories together. Helping teachers try new approaches. So there's not much of a learning curve, is there? And I think that's one of the areas that the tech companies are really trying hard at, is making these tools like Google did with search, as easy as possible to use. And people have their own communication styles, so that's where it really works, I guess, is that it just tailors its response to you. And it's sparking interest in teachers to use heritage a lot more. Now, there's not one teacher I've ever spoken to that didn't say they wanted to do more with heritage, to do with any of the 8 sites that we work at. They always want to do more, but they don't know how. So it allows them to really get into that a lot more, I think. But, and this is the big but, we find it made stuff up in our system very easily, and often it would make links to stuff that we didn't have resources on, and that was quite frustrating, because at first I thought we had a wonderful system that would just be really easy to finish and everyone could start using it, and it wasn't like that at all. After a few iterations and playing with it, I found it would do it a lot, actually, and I would often ask it, why are you doing that? And it would say, oh, my apologies, I didn't mean to do that, or you're right for pointing out, and then it's obviously a stock answer, and then it tries again, and sometimes it would do it repeatedly. So that's a problem. It wasn't filtering all the time as well. It was sometimes pulling a bit of information from other places. No matter what I told it or asked it not to do that, it would still do that. It needed a lot of teacher oversight. So although they're asking the questions and that part was easy, sometimes they had to then do the editing themselves to check the information was correct. That doesn't work. That's not what we're trying to do. And then there's some big questions around privacy and access issues with these tools, obviously. For My Learning, we, as part of our funding, we have to have the server in the UK. It's in Manchester. The company who works on it's in Leeds. So we need to know the trail and where everything is. We can't just offset that off to the US, for example. When you use a chatbot like ChatGPT, it's obviously going to servers, God knows where, and also then there's environmental issues to do with that. So there are some things I think are quite key to whether this is something that we will continue to keep working on. So this is phase 1. I'll say that now, because we knew some of these issues as we were working on it, but I think what we were able to do was try things in a very fast way and allow us to quickly experiment and trial and get the nitty-gritty of what it is. Does it work? Does it do something that we're interested in? But from a few conversations with some people that know a lot more about technology than I do, we started to realize that we need a second phase. We need to think about this very differently, about how might we do this. So talking about ethics, which I think is really important at this stage, is the representation. So when using AI, that's a big, huge topic that everyone's talking about. And I think that's going back to what we're trying to do on My Learning already, is the representation side, and making sure that that is key to the information going in. Bias, so all models are biased. All of us will be biased in one way or another. So reflecting that and making sure that we can do the best we can to try and improve that. And the privacy controls, so making sure that we've thought about those things and we're really careful about them. So phase 2. So we want to continue to do all these things. We want to continue to allow teachers to search by topic, key stage, suggesting links, images, tools. So a lot of smart. We basically want a really smart tool that can speed up their lesson development stages. Come back to us as well. We want them to keep coming back, and I think that's what's really important, is that if they keep coming back, we get more on the site as well, more resources, we can actually keep growing it, and it gets bigger and bigger. And all the content is on My Learning. It doesn't go anywhere else. It doesn't try and search anywhere else. So the second phase now is to try and train our own model. So we don't have funding at this stage to do this project, so we're trying to get funding to keep it going and to build this. So we've downloaded all the information we have, we put it into nice packets of folders and files and everything. So when we're ready, we can train the model. We've got all the images from the site, so we could do a different training on that. We've got all the stories that could be used as well. And then using that, and then feeding in all the curriculum links, we feed in all of the ways that we think a lesson structure could work. So it has a little bit more guidance on that. And then we get teachers to suggest new things that we can add to that to make the lesson process a bit easier. We run it on our own platform, so we could potentially, I presume, put it on direct on each and every laptop if we needed to for a specific teacher, one laptop in the school if we needed to. Doesn't need the internet for that reason. Or we could have everything built onto a separate server boxed in, so using an air-gap system, so everything is contained within that. So training the model independently on its own, and then putting it on a server that's locked away, and then it can't keep pulling data out. And when we get a new story, it would just be the process then would be we publish a story on the website like we do now, but we'd also publish it to the chatbot as well separately, so you can actually access that story and all the resources in it as quick as possible, so then people can start using that tool straight away. Okay, so these are the things that we need, obviously. Money is always the big one. Development time, so we probably need to start communicating with other institutions and tech companies. Hosting on a secure server, what would that look like? What are the costs? Every time you do a search, there's a cost. That's monetary costs as well as environmental costs. And we need to think about what does that really mean, and how can we streamline the search process maybe so that cost can be as minimal as possible, or thought about and offset in another way. How do we deal with that? We would love to have more teachers and museum partners to pilot this with, so this talk is part of that. So if anyone would like to chat about that at some point, that would be great. So the main thing I want to end with is we want to save teachers time. So is this the best way? I think it might be one useful tool. Give visibility to all the stories on My Learning. We don't always get all the stories out there, so that'd be great. Strengthening links between schools and museums, so the more they use it, the more likely they are to come back to us. Practical and ethical digital tool I think is really important, which I've outlined already, and designed to serve both everyone, the people and the collections that they're there for. So I've whisked through that reasonably fast. So yes, I think thank you very much for listening as well. My pleasure. I think we're going to take questions, aren't we?
Yeah, you've left us the most time all day for questions, so thank you very much.
Well, it's the end of the day and I'm shattered, so...
Yeah, Robin here at the front.
I actually can't hear that.
Or are you on Theatre 3? Or is it...
Just double check, yes.
Hello.
Oh, now I can.
Good, yeah.
You mentioned that the content people search for is on My Learning. Did you say you mentioned that they can go on the internet in it?
So in phase one, so the ChatGPT custom tool is just using a standard ChatGPT in some ways, where it's using a smart search tool itself to find resources through the My Learning website. But then it's also pulling other stuff. No matter how many times I told it not to do that, it would often go back and pull information from other places, which is problematic for what I'm trying to do.
Yeah. So how have you got over that? And
so that's what phase two is about, is getting it off ChatGPT and using a completely closed box system, so air-gapping it, and that's what that will do, is stop it from doing that. And that's a standard practice when you've got these apps, these people creating apps and things. That is one of the standard ways of doing it,
Any other questions? I had a question, actually, if that's okay. Does Leeds Museums and Galleries have an AI policy?
We do now. So we came up against this last year where we had someone writing interpretation, I think it was a volunteer, and they, for access reasons, they thought that was the best way that they could explain themselves and what they were trying to do in the project they were doing. So it came to the point where they admitted that they'd used AI and they wanted to know what was our policy, so we had to deal with it from that angle. So the angle now is that if we have any interpretation on site, it will say what the search prompts were and what tool we used. This will have, I think that's imperative that we have a open tool, and it's clearly marked for as an AI tool. I don't know where that sits when you start having resources from museums and collections, and we've written everything. I don't know how you navigate that in quite the same way, because it's still interpreting itself in some ways, but it's getting all the core facts and information from what's uploaded. So I think there needs to be more conversation about that, personally. I think it will need to keep developing, as everyone else, I'm sure, is finding out as well.
Any other questions? Oh, yeah, over there.
Hi. I might have missed this. Did you mention what your sample size was for the schools that you...
It was about 10 teachers, so it was very small. It's not, I wouldn't even call it a sample at that point.
No, right, okay.
So that's why I think we're doing this very tentatively.
Right, yeah.
For good reason, I think. And we're experimenting, we're playing, and we're trying stuff. So I think the next stage has to be that. But I didn't want to do it with an open ChatGPT that could give you false facts, essentially. And I didn't want it to send stories that we just didn't have. I mean, it would even write the story title and then pretend it was a link, and then when you try and click it, it didn't go anywhere.
Right.
It was very odd, and I was like, it's even creating a page that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Which is interesting in itself.
I only ask because I'm always interested in teachers' responses as to what it is they're after. Egypt comes up a lot, because obviously there aren't many museums with a collection. So, thank you.
So we have
amazing
resources on My Learning for Egypt. So
exactly.
Ancient Egypt. Sorry.
Amazing. Yeah, thank you.
Any last questions? Yeah, over here.
Hello, thank you very much for a lovely lecture. So who is creating the content?
That's a great question. So it's a range of institutions. It's different organizations across the country. We produce a lot ourselves as well, but it's lots of institutions. Yeah. Does that... Pardon? Sorry? Museums, heritage organizations, community groups. Like, it's honestly a whole range of different, from big to small, the whole lot. So we need to have this conversation with each and every one of them. Yeah.
So this is kind of from a GEM perspective, but what do you think museum educators need to know about AI to be kind of forefronting their practice?
Yeah, that's interesting. So in my learning team, we have teachers, people that go into classrooms and do teaching and bring children into our centre. And they don't want to touch it. They were very scared and weren't that interested. So I think from that side, seeing it firsthand of how people use this, and I trialed it with each and every one of them, and I was very shocked at how quickly they went from not interested to, oh wow, now I see the application. So, and I think tools like this, it's a very simple thing we're trying to do essentially. It's just create a lesson plan, create a scheme of work. I think once you've seen that in action, you actually start to, oh, well, what else can I do with this? And the speed of what it can create for you and help you. I don't think you should teach what it does. I think you should use it as a stage of getting to the point where you need to be, where you can then get there. It's a really good drafting tool, I think. So I think everyone should just start trying and playing with it, essentially. But it is definitely helpful for everyone. I mean, for museum professionals and teachers and educators, definitely. But I would say that, wouldn't I? Because I'm just conscious while I was saying that I sound like I'm a salesman, but I'm a learning practitioner as well. So.
Any last question? Yeah.
Do you also see this being useful for like home educators and like the learning departments within museum sector as well?
So one thing I've used it for, just in my day-to-day role as managing this site, is to find stuff. And I think I can't see why these tools wouldn't be more useful to anyone who's interested in education, for example. I mean, we have, the site's designed for teachers, but it's open on the internet, and anyone can go for it. And we look at the stats, and lots of different types of people do use it, and home educators use it as well. So it's just another layer working on what we already do, essentially. So yeah, I mean, I can't see why that would be an issue at all. Yeah. Would you use it, I guess, is the question, isn't it? Well, I don't know what you do, so it's hard for me to fire that question at you.
Any last thoughts, questions? No? Well, a really big thank you, Jonathan.